All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today to learn more about tools you can leverage as a Salesforce administrator. My name is Leanna Trigg, and I am a Senior Salesforce Account Executive at CSS Technical Services. We are a registered Salesforce consulting partner and support clients with everything Salesforce, from enterprise-level implementations to fixing a single line of code. Before we begin today, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. First of all, you should see the list of attendees at the top or to the right of your screen. You can interact with that panel, so if at any time it's in front of the view of the demo, feel free to move it. Secondly, you've all been muted. So if you have any questions as you go, please write them in the chat, which you can access by clicking the chat icon. You'll see that if you hover over the bottom of your screen. Also, we'll be pausing between sections of this program to answer questions, as well as providing time for Q&A at the end. Lastly, as you might recall, you've had the option to submit a Salesforce pain point when you registered for this webinar. Following the session, we will conduct a raffle for free Salesforce consulting support to resolve the pain point submitted by the winner. If you are selected, you will receive a notification email within 48 hours. That's all we have for housekeeping, so let's begin. We are living in a world with constant change, where we are seeing now more than ever the need to keep refining our skills as we strive to become more remote, more personalized, and more efficient. Today, you will hear from Salesforce solution engineer Tim Brevart. Tim has been working in the CRM space for 4 years. He was a key member of the Salesforce team at NASDAQ with specialties in sales, service, and Shield platform encryption before joining CSS. During today's session, Tim will highlight 4 Salesforce tools he uses to be more efficient and effective in a live demo. Without further ado, let's meet Tim.
Great job, Liana. Thanks for the intro. So hi, everyone. My name is Tim Brevart. I'm a solution engineer here at CSS Tec. I did see a few familiar names on the call, but for those of you I haven't met yet, I wanted to thank and welcome you to our Salesforce Tips and Tricks webinar myself. In planning this, we wanted to host the webinar for a few reasons. So our team here is well aware of the economic impacts that the coronavirus has had both nationwide and globally. So one of our goals with this webinar and those we plan on doing in the future is to help alleviate some of the business stresses you might be experiencing and to also help make your experience with Salesforce a little bit easier and possibly even a little bit more enjoyable. Most importantly, we aim to do so for the very agreeable price of $0.00. And even though you're all muted, I'm imagining all the cheers on the call right now. So with all that said, I'm excited to share these 4 helpful tools you can use with Salesforce. And of course, we'll have some time after each section and at the end of the presentation for questions submitted in the chat. So without further ado, let's shift gears here. Bear with me for 1 second. Whoops. Okay. All right. So our first tool that I wanted to cover is a tool called Organizer. Bear with me. Okay. So as an admin, a business analyst, a developer, or really anyone who's involved in Salesforce change management, you'll likely be working out of a number of different environments, whether it's a development or UAT sandbox, or even multiple production orgs or Trailhead playgrounds, et cetera. For consulting practices like ours, we are constantly logging into multiple orgs for multiple clients. And with that comes the challenge of keeping track all of our usernames, our passwords, and just generally keeping them all organized. So to help alleviate that issue and keep track of all of that stuff, there is this fantastic Chrome extension called Organizer. So it lives up here with the other Chrome extensions. And basically what it allows us to do, it's a free Chrome extension that basically solves the issue I just mentioned and also has many other functions. We could honestly make a whole webinar on Organizer itself. But for the sake of this call, we're going to look at the ability to store multiple orgs. So basically, in this Chrome extension, what you can do when you click on it, it brings you to this logins list here. Right now it's empty, but you have the ability to add all of your orgs, including your username, your password. You can label them just by clicking the new button here. So as I was saying, you can name your org just to help you better identify it, assign it to a group. There's a default value in here, but you can label the group with whatever you want. So call this one demo. And then You can choose the type of login that it's going to be. So either production, sandbox, developer, or if there's another option, you can choose other. You can set your landing page, and this is kind of a nice feature here in that it allows you to choose homepage in either Classic or Lightning, the setup page in either Classic or Lightning, or another custom landing page of your choice. You just need to enter in the URL there. So you also have a couple of other nice features here, including the use of a token. And basically what that does is if you use a token and then click yes on the login with token, that will allow you to log in from any untrusted locations without having to verify your account via the email PIN. So that's kind of a big pain point for us since we're logging into orgs all the time, and you know it's a nice feature to have when you're dealing with multiple orgs. You also have the ability to keep your login synced in Google Chrome storage. So basically what that does is it will retain all of your login information for this particular org and others that you choose to hit sync on, so that you can have access to any of the orgs that you've done that with through any of the Chrome browsers that you're accessing across a number of different devices. So, and if your organization uses OAuth, you have the ability to use that as well by enabling it down here. So for the sake of the example, let's set this one up. Call this my Trailhead Playground. Okay, set it to the demo group, good. Enter in my username here. Make sure I get my password right. Okay, and because this is a playground, we're going to set it to developer. And I'll set my landing page to home and the Lightning experience. And for the sake of simplicity, we'll just leave the rest of this blank here. So then we click create. And then it takes us to this page. So now our list is populated with this one org that I've added. So on this page, there are a couple of nice handy features that you can use as well. So over here, we have the ability to open the org in a new tab. We can go right to the developer console if you're trying to run some Apex or do some queries on your org. You can open it in an entirely new window, open in an incognito browser, or copy your login link on a clipboard in case you need to send it to someone and they need to attempt to log in. And if you've used the token, you can copy your password and token on a clipboard. So let's click on the login in a new tab. Assuming I got my password right, looks like it's good. Okay, perfect. So now that login is saved in Organizer here for good. So anytime you log in, or anytime you open up Chrome really and you access Organizer, you'll be able to just click on that and it will take you to your org or whichever org you have in your list. There is a second way, and arguably a much easier and more convenient way to do this. So for the sake of the example, we'll get rid of this. Okay, and then we'll go back to our login page. And basically, all you'll need to do to save your information this way is enter in your details. Okay. And then as soon as you click login, Organizer will prompt you to save the login info. So you can do it that way or the other way. This way, if you're logging into a brand new org, it's just kind of a quicker and dirtier way to do it. So by clicking yes, it'll save it, and then you'll automatically be logged in again. The really nice feature too about this, this tool here is that you have the ability to label and color code your orgs. So if we look at this tab right next to logins up here, orgs, you have a bit more customization on this side. And you can also have access, direct access to your home page, your setup page, or the dev console here as well. So by clicking on this little gear icon, you have the ability to rename it from this page here, and you can also color code your little cloud. So it's a nice way, a nice visual way to kind of see the different orgs that you have up and running at the moment. So we'll go ahead and change this over to red, save it, and then it should update automatically. And if it doesn't, we can just refresh and then it'll change red. So if you're working out of, a development sandbox, a UAT, a production org, you can have them all be color coded. So that way it's easy to identify at a glance. So again, I cannot reiterate this enough. If you're someone who is using multiple orgs and operating out of multiple orgs daily, Organizer is a must-have. It has made our lives here at CSS Tech so much easier, and I have to give a big shout out to my colleague Randy Thompson for introducing it to me. Randy, you're awesome. Thank you so much, and I hope this can help everybody as soon as they discover it and use it themselves. So with that being said, that was our first topic of Organizer. Let's take a quick pause. Does anyone have any questions about this tool before we move on?
Hey, Tim, this is Leanna. I do see a couple questions here.
Okay.
The first being, can this be used to set up sandboxes?
It can, yeah. So that's a great question. Let's open up Organizer here again. So under logins, you have the ability to pretty much enter any type of org that you're working out of. So when you're setting it up and entering your credentials here, you have the ability to choose between production, sandbox, developer, and any other kind of org that you're logging into. So short answer is yes, you can designate a sandbox and save it and log in as you would with any other type of org.
Great. Second question, how many orgs can be stored in total in Organizer?
It's another good question. So the whole purpose of the webinar here, we're showing off free tools. This is the free version of Organizer. There is a paid version as well. With the free version, you have the ability to save, I believe, 20 different orgs. With the paid version, I'm actually not sure how many total. I imagine it's a number that's so high no one could possibly reach. But that's something that we can certainly look into and provide the answer to the person who asked that question.
Great. And Bill Kuehler asked, any concerns from a security perspective?
None that I've discovered. It's fairly secure as long as you are entering your username and password in and designating the correct environment. It should sync up with the Salesforce security that's set up already in the org. So all of that is determined pretty much by what's enabled in the organization already.
Great, thanks, Tim. I think that's all that we have for questions on this one. As a reminder to everybody, we will do Q&A at the end also. So if you forget or have some questions, then we'll get back to them.
Awesome, great questions. Thanks, everybody. So our next topic, this one is actually not a Chrome extension. This is a free web tool called SchemaLister. Let's open this up here. So I have a small anecdote just about my experience before coming to CSS Tech. I was working at NASDAQ, and I was a part of the global CRM team there. And one of the big projects that we were tasked with was implementing Shield platform encryption. And one of the major challenges that we faced was determining the type of data that all of our orgs field held and where those fields were used in reference. So Salesforce has the ability to show that to a degree. In custom fields, you can see where the field is used, where it's referenced in reports, etc. But it's not quite as convenient because it's more of a field-by-field process. So it can get extremely tedious, especially if your org is complex and you have hundreds of fields that you've got to analyze. So Schema Lister is a great tool that I found when we were working on this project. And it helps provide a little bit of clarity for where your fields are being used and referenced pretty much in a matter of minutes and in a very easy and convenient way to interpret. So basically, the tool here is free. It's a website that allows you to connect your org and export all the metadata in your preferred spreadsheet format. So basically, the way it works, you can designate what type of org you're using. So I'm just going to stick with my demo org here. Keep it at production. And then it'll ask you to log in. It'll take you to the login page. Actually, it would take you to the login page. Otherwise, it would skip over if you're already logged in. And then you have the ability to include managed package objects. So those are all the objects that you've had installed that are not out of the box functionality in Salesforce. And the best thing to do here is include the field usage. That is the primary usage of this tool here. So we'll just tick off both of these, and then all you do is click Get Schema. So full disclosure, depending on the complexity of your org and how much customization there is in it, this could take kind of a while. I believe when we ran this on NASDAQ's org, which was very complex and had a ton of customization and integrations at work, the whole thing took about 10 minutes. Running it on my sandbox and just doing a couple of trials, I've had it complete anywhere, from 2 to 3 minutes, up to 5 minutes. It's really not that bad, and you can just really let it run in the background. But for the sake of this, we're not gonna, linger on this page here. So I ran this earlier today, and once it's finished, this is the page that it'll take you to. So it's synced up to your org. You can see broken down by object here. You have the ability to go to specific objects by clicking on this link, and then it'll show you a breakdown of the fields, the API names, the type of field here, and then over here in this column, it'll show you the field usage. So my preferred view of all of this is to just export it in a spreadsheet. You have the ability to do this on a single tab where it will list all fields for all objects in one place, or export it in a multi-tab format. So that way each object is broken down into its own tab. So I actually have this exported to just to show you what that would look like. Let me expand this here. So, and having it in this format I found is just so much easier, because that way you have the ability to filter for certain fields. It's broken down by objects, so you're not going to be overwhelmed by thousands of rows. And you can see, you get a lot of visibility into all of the fields too. So you can see their field, start over on the left here, the field label is there, the API name, the type of field that it is. For pick list, you can see the values that are in the pick list. You can see any help text that's been associated with that field. If it's a formula field, you'll see the formula as it's listed in your org. You can determine whether the field is required or not under the attributes column. And then in this column is the field usage. So let me wrap this so we can see it easily. And this is essentially a replication of what we saw on the website. But it's great because they list it out here, and you have the ability to filter on the keywords that you're looking for here as well. So while I was using this for our Shield platform encryption project, this tool was absolutely critical. And it was really the first time that we had used it. And then ever since then, my team had used it when they were setting up various integrations, because it's an amazing tool just to see, if you were to modify a field in some way, the broader impact that would have, across the org itself. So it's a fantastic tool. I highly encourage you to check it out. If not just for fun, you can learn a lot about your org that way, and you can certainly bookmark it for later. So also, I wanted to just give a shout out to the creator of it, Ben Edwards 44 up here. If you find it useful in the future and you use it, please throw the creator, a couple bucks on PayPal just as a thank you. It's been such an invaluable tool to me, and I highly recommend it for everyone on the call. So I know I just talked a lot there. That was Schema Lister. Let's take another pause and just check to see if there are any questions, Leanna.
Great. I do have one so far. So Tim, does the export include custom objects?
Yes, good question. So the export will include pretty much everything in your org. When you're ticking off those 2 checkboxes at the beginning, the only thing that's not guaranteed if you click on field usage are the managed package objects. So as long as you tick off field usage, anything that is either standard or custom that's not a managed package will be included in the export. Good question.
All right, I think that's it for now.
Awesome. All right, we're moving right along here. So let's see what we have next. Let's get out of here. Okay, so the next one that I wanted to cover is a nice little tool. It's very quick to use, and thankfully also very quick and easy to explain. So this tool is called LoginAs, and it exists right up here. I have it next to Organizer. And basically, I'll give you a scenario. So occasionally as a developer, and especially as an admin, you'll likely be dealing with troubleshooting user issues that might require a little bit more of a personalized investigation. So Salesforce aimed to address that pain point for admins by adding the login feature for active user records, but it's a multiple step process. You've got to log in to set up, find the user, and then to get to that point, takes a lot of clicks. So LoginAs kind of alleviates that pain point by giving you, as an admin, login access to any active users in your org, pretty much right from where you currently are in Salesforce. So by clicking on it, and again, this is a sandbox, so we're not going to have too many active users, but you can see a list of all your users here, and the active ones will have that login feature. So by clicking login, we use Ada Balewa as an example. It will log you in as Ada, and you can see, this would be their view of the same page that you're looking at currently. So it's a nice feature because it's a much faster way to troubleshoot issues and to just get a view of another user who might have reached out to you about something that they're experiencing. It doesn't take you back into setup when you log out. So it'll pretty much stay on whatever page you end up on where you're logging in or logging out of a user from. It's also nicely dynamic in a few ways. Say, for example, we had a couple of orgs open up here. If I were to click on those tabs and click on login as under each of those tabs, it would adapt to the org that we currently had open in Chrome. So it wouldn't, it wouldn't be static and leave one list of login users per tab. That would adjust per org that you've got open. What's nice too is that this feature only works for admins. So admins are the only ones who can log in with it. Anyone can download it, but their view would basically just be this view of all of the users, and they wouldn't have the login action available. So pretty much anyone with a system admin profile will have access to this, as long as it's also enabled in your org. I've got to say, the only limitation that I've found with this tool is that it doesn't log you into the page that the user was currently on, and potentially seeing an error at, or something like that. It's not a big deal. It's something that might be a preference to some. I personally wish that it would take you exactly to where the user currently was, but you can't beat the speed of being able to log in immediately and then log back out to where you were before. So that's LoginAs. I'll add to a couple of tips just to make sure that you're getting the most out of this. You would want to make sure that the setting under login access policies, force relogin after login as user, is unchecked. So that way, when you log in as a user and then you log back out, it won't take you to the Salesforce login screen where you've got to enter your password again. That's just one thing to just make sure that you've got enabled, so that way you can save yourself some time as well. So that's pretty much it for LoginAs. Again, I said it's a pretty quick but very handy tool for admins and developers and anyone who's got that admin profile alike. So let's take another pause and just check to make sure that there are any questions that need answering.
Yes, so Tim, first question here is, are there any extra steps to enabling it in your org?
Great question. There are no extra steps required to enable it in your org. All you would want to do is just make sure that you uncheck that force relogin after login as user checkbox under login access policies. And then I believe there's also one other setting that I think comes default enabled, which is to allow your admin, those with the system admin profile, to log in as other users. I believe that comes pre-checked already, but I'm pretty sure that's also under login access policies. So you just want to make sure that that checkbox is also enabled.
Great, thanks, Tim. And Sarah similarly was asking, how do we install it?
Yeah, great question. So with the exception of SchemaLister, because that is it's not a Chrome extension, pretty much you just go to the Google Chrome App Store or extension store. I'm not really sure what it's called, but wherever you install Chrome extensions from, search for LoginAs and it'll be right there. It's going to be the first thing to pop up.
Perfect. And then the last question we have so far is, who can use the login feature, and is it accessible to some or all users?
Yeah, also a great question. So I kind of touched on that. Basically, the login feature is dependent on users having that system admin profile. Anyone can download it, but the limitation there is that if you don't have the system admin profile, all you're going to get is that list of users, and you're not going to have the ability to log in as them. You'll just see your list, and that's pretty much that. So if you want a quick access to your list of users in your org, it's a good tool for that, but it won't allow you the ease of logging in and getting their view on things.
Great. I think that's it for now, Tim.
Awesome. Thanks, Liana. Great questions, everyone. Okay, so we are on to our last topic here, and I think we saved the best one for last. This is a product by Salesforce called the Salesforce Lightning Extension. So this extension is useful pretty much for everyone, admins and users alike. It has 3 components, and they're fairly simple features, but I would say they're also pretty impactful, just in terms of enabling productivity, changing the aesthetic of Salesforce, and also making certain things that should be more relevant or less relevant appear or disappear from your page layouts. So let's open this up, and you can see that there are 3 features here. So we'll go kind of one by one here. The first one is component customization. So if we enable this here, click out of there, you'll see that on your home page here, or really any record page that has components set up in Lightning, you can click on this little icon, and then you'll see that they all get grayed out. So basically, clicking on one of these now at that point allows you to hide that component. So say, for example, you're a user who's on a certain page, and there's the component that is there for everyone to use, but it's not something that you use, often or ever, and it's just not relevant to you. So you want to be able to remove it without submitting a ticket and, forcing your poor admin to manipulate the Lightning page layout. So basically, you can take control of this yourself. Click on that component, and then click the little slider over here, exit out, and then that component is gone from the page layout. So just to be completely transparent here, it's not actually hidden, or it's not actually removed for good. All you've got to do to get it back is just to click on that icon, hover over the one that you've hidden, click on it again, use the little slider, click the X, and then it returns, no problem. So it's a useful tool, especially if there are a lot of components on your page that you don't find necessarily useful or that you don't use every day. It's just a great way to kind of keep what's essential to you and you doing your job visible into the forefront. So that was the first component. I wanted to jump down to the second component here, the link grabber. So basically, link grabber is a nice way to alleviate the problem of having too many tabs open in your browser. So I'm sure many of you, struggle with this daily at your job. I certainly do, of just having too many Chrome browser tabs open. So link grabber helps keep all the Salesforce links open in Salesforce and cut back on continuing to open new tabs. So I'll use an example that I have here of a few links. So say, someone sends you links to Salesforce records. If you click on one, you can see the behavior there that the link tried to open in a new tab, but it was redirected to the existing tab and then brought us to that record page. So again, it's a nice way to prevent multiple tabs from opening specific to Salesforce. Now, I would recommend, if you're using console, let's load this up here. And to be honest, I just recommend using console in general just because console is awesome. And with this feature, it's fantastic. basically, when you open up those links, it will open up a new tab in console. So you actually have the ability to use this tabbed view while staying in Salesforce the entire time. So Link Grabber, it's a great tool, especially if you're using console. I cannot recommend using console enough. Great. So our last feature, and I think this is the best for last, is that the Lightning extension officially enables Salesforce to have a dark mode. So if you click that, it turns everything into this awesome, it gives it an awesome shade of gray here. And it's, you know, it's a simple aesthetic change that's easier on the eyes if you're working at night, you know, or it's just a snazzy new view of the UI for those who appreciate the dark side of things. So it's very easy to enable. All of them are, as a matter of fact. It's just a matter of turning these little toggle things to the right or left. So you can turn it on, turn it off, you know, same with the other ones. So that is pretty much the Salesforce Lightning extension. And that's actually our last topic as well. So Leanna, I'll pass it back to you. We can use the rest of the time to go over any of the outstanding questions that people may have submitted in the chat.
Great, thank you. I do have one from what you just demoed there. It looked like you were kind of getting to it at the end, actually, Tim.
Okay.
So is there any control over who has access to these features from an admin perspective?
Yes, fantastic question. So admins do have the ability to enable certain features in the Lightning extension from setup. So pretty much any user who, you know, has access to Salesforce can log into it, or can access it rather. The admin, though, has control over which of these three features are available. So it's essentially the same setup, and actually we can probably show that here. Let's see if we can get to it. When you go into setup, I believe you just have to search, whoops, I believe you have to search Lightning extension. There we go. And yeah, it's very straightforward. So the admin can control the ability for users to use it simply by clicking the, you know, the on-off toggle right here, as well as any of the three features. They can enable or disable any of the three, any combination of the three there. So yeah, excellent question.
Great. So at this point, we'll open it up if anybody has any questions for Tim, either related to any of the last four things he just discussed or Salesforce in general.
I realize I've talked a lot too, so I'm happy to take a break here if anyone has any other questions.
All right. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have for today then. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we'll be drawing the winner of the Salesforce Consulting Support in the next 48 hours. Woo! So get excited to see an announcement about that. And then lastly, and most importantly, we know there are a lot of things competing for your time right now. So thank you very much for spending this hour with us. Have a great day, everyone.